Okay, here's the translated and rewritten text, following all your instructions. My name is Valerie, and I'm 33 years old. Tonight, I walked into the peaceful Napa estate that I had been saving up for and designing high-end interiors for 11 years to finally own. I was carrying a bottle of vintage red wine for the family New Year's Eve party that I had meticulously planned. Mason came straight at me, a storm brewing in his eyes. "Don't come here causing trouble," he snarled, his voice dripping with venom, and then he slammed the full glass of red wine right into my face. The wine splashed across my dress, stinging my eyes with unexpected intensity. Behind him, Jerry and Donna stood completely still, just nodding their heads at me in a very cold way. "This party is for real family only," Donna said, her voice sounding almost robotic and completely devoid of warmth. I could taste the wine on my lips, and it had a bitter taste, just like all of the favors I had ever done for them. The room started to spin as the guests around me laughed and pretended that they didn't see what just happened. My brother glared at me, daring me to react in any way. My parents didn't even flinch. I had decorated every single corner of this house and property, and paid for every single bottle of wine and every single light that was twinkling in the vineyard outside. And in just 1 second, they made it crystal clear that I wasn't welcome in my own home. But I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I just reached for my cell phone. If you have ever been humiliated by the people who were supposed to love you the most, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe now. Because what I did next was something that they never saw coming. I wiped my face, and I could feel my heart pounding in the cold air of the vineyard. The chill went right through my soaked dress, but the stinging in my eyes wasn't just from the wine. I fumbled for my phone with trembling fingers, and then dialed the number of the one person who had never turned away from me. "Aunt Evelyn," I said the moment she answered the phone, my voice cracking even though I was trying my best to stay calm. "They just threw wine in my face in my own house." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. Evelyn had always been the steady one, the sister that my father never quite knew how to handle. "Val, listen to me," she replied, her voice firm but warm and reassuring. "You don't stay silent anymore, not after everything. Tell me exactly what happened." I leaned against a vine post that was covered in frost, and I watched the estate lights flickering in the distance like faraway stars. Evelyn's words took me back to the first time she had said something that really stuck with me. I was 12 years old, and I was hiding in her guest room after yet another fight at home. She had tucked me in and whispered, "You deserve to be loved, kiddo. Don't let anyone make you forget that." It was the only time that anyone in my family had ever said that to me outright. As I told her about the scene inside, the guests, the decorations, the way my parents had nodded without saying a single word, Evelyn listened without interrupting. When I was finished, she exhaled very slowly. "This isn't new, is it? They've been doing this since you were in college." And she was right. The memory hit me like a wave, pulling me under the surface. I was 22 years old, and I was standing in the kitchen of our old family home in Sacramento. I had just been accepted into a really prestigious design program, one that required a full-time commitment and tuition that I couldn't afford on my own. My parents were sitting at the table, each with a cup of coffee in their hands. My father cleared his throat in a way that was very deliberate. "We're cutting your allowance, Valerie. You're smart enough to figure it out on your own." I remember just staring at them, waiting for the punchline, but there wasn't one. My mother added, almost casually, "Your brother needs the money for his new hobbies. He's still growing." Mason was 14 at the time, already taller than me, with a room full of gadgets and sports gear. I had been working weekends at a cafe since I was 16, saving every penny for books and supplies. That day, they handed me a box of my things and then pointed toward the door. "Time to be independent," my father said, as if he were giving me a gift. I moved into a tiny apartment near campus, sharing it with 2 strangers. I spent my nights sketching floor plans under a dim lamp. I spent my days interning unpaid at firms that promised me exposure. But exposure didn't pay the rent. I took on freelance gigs, redesigning lobbies for cheap motels and creating mood boards for startups that never even launched. Every rejection fueled me. Every late payment reminder became motivation. I learned how to negotiate contracts, to spot trends before they even hit the magazines, and to turn a client's vague idea of "make it luxurious" into something tangible and profitable. By the time I was 25, I had my first big break. A boutique hotel in San Francisco needed a complete overhaul. The owner absolutely loved my portfolio, The clean lines, the warm textures, and the spaces that felt like home without trying too hard. Word started to spread. Soon I was flying down to Los Angeles for celebrity homes and then to New York for penthouse consultations. I built a name for myself, Valerie Designs, which was known for turning forgotten spaces into sanctuaries. Clients paid a premium because I delivered emotion in every single detail. A reading nook that invited solitude, and a kitchen that sparked family gatherings. But success came with isolation. My parents didn't attend any of my openings. Mason sent me occasional texts about his latest gadget or trip, which were always funded by them. I sent birthday cards, holiday gifts, and invitations to events. The responses I got were polite and distant, often just saying they were busy with work, my mother would say. Or sometimes I got no response at all. I spent 11 years grinding, skipping vacations, and eating instant noodles so that I could invest in software upgrades and fabric samples. 11 years to finally afford this estate, this serene hilltop property in Napa, with its sprawling vineyard, stone fireplace, and views that stretched all the way to the horizon. I closed on it 6 months ago, imagining it as a bridge, a place where we could all gather, where old wounds might heal over shared meals and laughter. I pictured my parents retiring here, and Mason visiting with stories, maybe even starting new traditions. The New Year's Eve party was my olive branch. I hired a private chef who specialized in farm-to-table menus, pairing each course with wines from local cellars. The dining table groaned under the weight of platters filled with seared scallops, herb-crusted lamb, and truffle risotto. Desserts were waiting in the kitchen, individual chocolate soufflés and a tower of macaroons in pastel shades. I had strung LED lights through the vines outside, creating a glowing path from the driveway to the main house. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers, the volume low enough for conversation but high enough to fill any silences. I chose the menu myself, remembering my mother's love for seafood and my father's preference for red meat. For Mason, I added a charcuterie board with his favorite aged cheddar. Peyton, his fiancée, had mentioned that she had a sweet tooth, so I included a dessert station with artisanal chocolates. Every single detail was thoughtful, expensive, and personal. I even set out place cards, with elegant calligraphy on thick cardstock, with each name being a silent plea for connection. Standing there now, with the phone pressed to my ear, I described it all to Evelyn, the chef arriving at dawn to prep everything, and the florist arranging centerpieces of winter greens and white roses. The bartender was mixing signature cocktails with infused spirits. I thought if I made it perfect, I admitted, they'd see me, really see me. Evelyn's voice softened when she replied, "You've always been the one holding everything together, Val, but perfection doesn't fix people who don't want to change." She paused for a moment, then continued, "What are you going to do?" I glanced at the house, and I could see warm lights through the windows and shadows moving inside. The guests were mingling, either oblivious or complicit in what had just happened. My dress clung to my skin, cold and wet, but something shifted in my chest. A resolve that I hadn't felt since that confrontation in the kitchen years ago. "I'm not leaving," I said. "This is my home." Evelyn exhaled with relief. "Good, then fight for it, but not alone." The call ended with her promise to check in soon. I put the phone in my pocket, straightened my shoulders, and walked back toward the entrance. The vineyard path crunched under my heels, and each step I took was very deliberate. The party lights blurred slightly, not from tears, but from focus. I had built this life brick by brick, and no one would take it from me tonight. I dialed the Napa County Sheriff, my voice steady as a rock. The operator asked for details, and I gave them to her plainly: unauthorized people on my property and one assault with a thrown drink. She confirmed that they would dispatch someone within minutes. I stood at the edge of the driveway, and the glow of the vineyard faded behind me as red and blue lights approached up the hill. 2 deputies stepped out of the cruiser, their flashlights cutting through the night. The taller one, whose badge read Ramirez, approached me first. "Ma'am, you called about a disturbance?" I nodded, leading them toward the entrance. "This is my estate. I own it outright. The people inside are refusing to leave after an incident." Deputy Ramirez requested identification and proof of ownership. I pulled up the digital deed on my phone, which had been recorded with Napa County just months earlier. The second deputy, Lopez, scanned it quickly. "Looks legitimate. Let's speak with the occupants." We entered the foyer, and the warmth hit me like a wall after being out in the cold. The guests parted and murmurs rippled through the crowd. My mother, Donna, rushed forward, her hands clasped and her eyes wide with feigned concern. Officers, thank goodness, this is just a family misunderstanding. My daughter gets emotional sometimes. I met her gaze directly. Misunderstanding? You watched your son throw wine in my face and then said that this party wasn't for me in the home that I paid for? Donna's lips trembled, but she turned to the deputies with a pleading smile. See? She's upset over nothing. We're all family here. There's no need for this. Deputy Lopez held up his hand. Ma'am, please step back. We need statements from everyone involved. He glanced at me. Can you describe the assault? I recounted what happened factually. The approach, the shout, the glass being hurled, and the impact. There was no exaggeration and no tears. Ramirez took notes and then he addressed the room. Did anyone witness this? A few guests shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. Peyton hovered near the stairs, twisting her engagement ring. Mason lingered in the background, his arms crossed and a scowl on his face. Ramirez radioed for backup to confirm the property records. Minutes later, it came through Valerie Designs LLC as the sole owner, with no liens and no shared titles. Clear, he said to Lopez, turning to Donna. Ramirez's tone hardened. This property belongs to Ms. Valerie. Your presence here without her permission constitutes trespassing. The thrown drink qualifies as assault under the California Penal Code. Donna's face paled. But we're her parents. This is absurd. I stepped closer, my voice even. Parents who told me I wasn't real family in my own house. Lopez addressed the guests. Folks, if you were invited by the owner, you can stay. Otherwise, you need to exit the premises. Most of them were my hires, the chef and the staff, so they remained. The family cluster tightened. Jerry emerged from the living room, his hands raised pleadingly. Officers, let's talk this out. Valerie's always been dramatic. Dramatic? I repeated the word, letting it land flat. 11 years of building everything alone, and you call that dramatic? Ramirez ignored his plea. Trespassing and assault. Everyone who isn't on the deed must leave immediately, or we will escalate to arrests. Donna clutched Jerry's arm. You can't do this. It's New Year's Eve. Lopez pointed toward the door. Out now. Peyton whimpered, grabbing Mason's sleeve. What about our things? Collect essentials only, Ramirez instructed. We'll supervise. As the family moved toward the coat room, I felt a shift inside me, not rage, but clarity. For years, I had bent over backward, accommodated them, and hoped that silence would earn me their acceptance. Tonight, the law was speaking for me. The deputy's presence wasn't about vengeance, it was about validation. This estate, every beam and stone, was mine by right. Donna paused at the threshold, turning back with watery eyes. Valerie, think about what you're doing to us. I held her stare. I am. The deputies flanked them, ensuring compliance. The guests watched in stunned silence, the jazz music now sounding absurdly cheerful. The chef peeked out from the kitchen, wide-eyed but professional. Ramirez handed me an incident report form. Sign here if you want to press charges for assault. Trespassing citations will be issued. I took the pen, my hand unwavering, and signed both forms. As they herded the group outside, I stood in the doorway, feeling the weight lifting with each step they took down the path. For the first time, strength wasn't something I faked. It was real, rooted in facts that no one could deny. The door swung wide and Mason burst out. His eyes blazed under the porch light, and his fists were clenched at his sides. Deputy Ramirez blocked his path instantly. Sir, you have 15 minutes to gather personal items. Nothing else. Mason shoved past him toward the coat closet, muttering curses under his breath. Peyton trailed behind him, her face streaked with mascara, clutching a small purse like a lifeline. Mason, slow down, she whispered, her voice breaking. Inside, the deputies set timers on their watches. Lopez announced clearly, essentials only, wallets, keys, and phones. No furniture, no decor. The guests who weren't family edged away, forming a silent perimeter. Jerry appeared next, his coat half on, reaching for Ramirez's arm. Officer, please don't do this to her mother. His plea hung weak in the air, the same tone he'd used years ago to justify his favors. Ramirez removed his hand gently but firmly. Sir, time's ticking. Move. Donna emerged from the hallway, her scarf askew, clutching a designer bag. She spotted me near the stairs and pointed sharply. "You're destroying everything!" Her scream echoed off the high ceilings, drawing winces from the staff. Mason, who was now in the dining area, scanned the table laden with untouched appetizers. His gaze landed on the crystal wine station, a custom piece that I'd commissioned from a local artisan. With a guttural yell, he swept his arm across it. Bottles crashed to the floor, and red liquid pooled like blood on the hardwood. "You'll regret this," he roared, the glass shattering under his boots. Peyton gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. "Mason, stop! I don't want any part of this!" She backed toward the exit, her heels clicking frantically. Lopez moved in, his hand on his belt. "That's property damage. Cease immediately, or you will face additional charges." Mason froze, his chest heaving, but he didn't apologize. Jerry hurried over, trying to pull him away. "Son, enough. Let's just go." But Donna wasn't done. She stormed toward me, but the deputies intercepted her. "How dare you turn the police on your own blood?" Spittle flew with each word. "This house, it should have been ours anyway." I stayed rooted to the spot, my arms crossed. The chaos swirled around me, but I felt detached, observing it all like a stranger in my own space. 11 years of compromise flashed before my eyes, skipped birthdays, unacknowledged achievements, and every success downplayed and met with indifference. This outburst wasn't a surprise. It was confirmation. Ramirez checked his watch. 10 minutes left. The family scattered. Mason grabbed a duffel bag from upstairs, stuffing clothes into it haphazardly. Peyton collected her coat and a forgotten gift bag, avoiding eye contact. Jerry gathered car keys and a wallet from the side table, his movements slow and defeated. Donna snatched jewelry from a guest room drawer, slamming it shut. The deputies followed each of them, ensuring that they weren't lingering. Lopez radioed updates. Subjects complying under protest. Minor damage noted. Peyton paused at the door, turning to me with tear-filled eyes. "Valerie? I didn't know it would go this far." Her voice cracked, genuine regret mixing with fear. Mason overheard her and wheeled around. "Don't apologize to her." He lunged forward, but Ramirez blocked him again. "Out now!" Jerry guided Donna toward the exit, her protests fading into sobs. "We raised you better than this," he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. The clock hit 8 minutes. The staff began the subtle cleanup, wiping up spills and righting chairs, remaining professional in the midst of the storm. Mason made one last sweep, kicking a fallen bottle that rolled across the floor. "This isn't over," he threatened, his voice low and menacing. Ramirez escorted him out. "Threat noted. Any contact violates the order." Peyton slipped past, whispering to Jerry. Donna trailed behind, her head held high but her shoulders shaking. The 4 of them clustered on the driveway, the deputies hurrying them to their vehicles. 2 SUVs parked crookedly from their earlier arrival. Engines revved. Headlights pierced the darkness as they maneuvered down the winding hill road, their tires crunching on the gravel. Their taillights disappeared around the bend, swallowed up by the darkness of the vineyard. I remained on the porch, my breath visible in the cold air. The deputies approached me for the final signatures. "Incident report complete," Lopez said. "We'll file the citations. Call us if they return." Ramirez added, "You handled this well, ma'am. Property rights are clear." They drove off, their lights fading into the distance. The estate fell silent, except for the distant jazz music still playing inside. The staff resumed their duties quietly, and the chef checked the ovens. The chaos was gone. The space felt larger, and it was all mine. There was no need to look back. Their exit marked a line that I would never cross again. I stepped inside and spotted Donna's laptop on the bar. The screen glowed faintly, the lid half closed amid scattered coasters. The staff bustled quietly in the background, resetting for a party that had never truly started. I flipped it open, finding no password, pure arrogance in digital form. The desktop loaded to an open email tab, the inbox labeled Napa Elite. There was a thread that sat unread, the subject line innocuous. Final head count. I clicked on the top message, which was from Donna and time-stamped 3 days ago. Confirmed. Valerie covers everything. We arrive, feast, then ditch her after dessert. She'll get the hint. Below that was Jerry's reply. Perfect. Keeps the bill off our cards. Mason chimed in. I'll handle the exit drama if needed. She always backs down. Peyton added a laughing emoji. Free food and wine. I'm in. Further down, archived exchanges painted the full picture. One from last month showed Donna forwarding my venue deposit confirmation with the message, "See? She pays without asking. Use it." Another from Jerry to a friend said, "Valerie's place is ideal. Big enough for our crowd and none of the cost." I scrolled methodically, finding invitations sent under my name, RSVPs managed by Donna, menu approvals with my credit card attached, and even a note about parking. Tell guests to use Valerie's driveway. She won't mind. Each line stripped away the pretense. This wasn't oversight or a misunderstanding. It was calculated exclusion. They had turned my jester into their grift, planning my humiliation as the finale. My pulse remained even. I felt no heat in my cheeks, no knot in my stomach, just ice. 11 years of earning, of proving my worth through silence, had crystallized into this moment. The estate wasn't a bridge. It was bait. I took a screenshot of every message and every attachment, saving the folder to my phone in seconds. The evidence was secured and undeniable. The chef approached hesitantly. "Ms. Valerie, shall we serve the staff now?" I nodded. "Please? They've earned it?" As plates clinked in the kitchen, I dialed Evelyn again. She answered on the first ring. "I have proof," I said, my voice flat. "Send it all," she replied without hesitation. "Every word." I attached the files and hit send. The whoosh confirmed delivery. Evelyn's tone sharpened. "This changes the game, Val. They thought you'd fold. They were wrong." There was a pause. "You sound different." "I am." No tears threatened. There was no urge to scream or smash the laptop, just a clarity as sharp as the broken glass that was still being swept up nearby. I closed the device and slid it into a drawer. Tomorrow it would go to the professionals. Tonight it was leverage. The staff filled the dining room, their laughter rising and genuine for the first time. The jazz shifted to something upbeat. I joined them briefly, accepting a plate of lamb. The flavor exploded on my tongue, rich and perfectly seasoned. My creation was finally being enjoyed by people who appreciated it. One server raised a glass to the real host. I clinked my glass back, the sound clear and sharp. Upstairs, I changed into jeans and a sweater. The ruined dress was bagged up for dry cleaning, or perhaps for evidence. The mirror reflected someone unfamiliar, someone with straight posture and steady eyes. The woman who had begged for scraps was gone. I texted the cleanup crew for a morning service, full detail, with no expense spared. The estate would shine again, untainted. Evelyn messaged back. "Got it. Printing now. Sleep if you can." Sleep felt distant, but rest wasn't the goal. Strategy was. I walked the empty halls, my fingers trailing along the banisters. I'd chosen these walls, and I'd painted them in soft neutrals to evoke calm. Every choice was mine, and every payment came from accounts that they had never contributed to. Their plan had backfired, spectacularly. Down in the wine cellar, I selected a bottle from my private reserve, something rare that I'd saved for a milestone. Tonight certainly qualified. The cork popped softly. I poured a glass, savoring the bouquet. It was complex, layered, and earned. Sipping slowly, I reviewed my mental checklists. The security footage from the outdoor cameras likely captured the chaos of their exit. Vendor invoices were all in my name. The puzzle pieces fit together without force. No rage fueled me now, cold calculation did. They had scripted my role as the fool. Now I would rewrite the ending. The clock struck 2. The house was quiet, and the staff had departed with leftovers and bonuses. I locked up and set the alarm. The vineyard outside lay still under the moonlight, the rows orderly and waiting. Tomorrow would bring allies and action. Tonight I owned the silence. Morning light filtered in when Evelyn and Zelda arrived. Evelyn carried a thermos of coffee, her eyes red from the drive. "I left at 3, she said, hugging me tight. Couldn't wait. Zelda, the attorney that Evelyn had known since law school, set a leather briefcase down on the island. She wore a sharp suit and had an even sharper gaze. "Show me what you have." I handed over the printed emails, the photos of the shattered wine station, and the sheriff's report. Zelda spread them across the counter like puzzle pieces. Assault with the drink, trespassing on record, property damage. Those bottles weren't cheap. We're looking at a solid civil claim. Evelyn poured coffee for the three of us. Start with the demand letter. Exactly, Zelda said, pulling out a legal pad. Certified mail, return receipt requested. Itemize every expense. Party costs, cleanup, replacement crystal. Add emotional distress for the public humiliation. A conservative estimate is $28,000. I leaned against the counter, my arms folded. They'll fight it. Let them, Zelda said, her pen flying across the page. The emails are gold. Intent to defraud, conspiracy to exclude. California courts love paper trails. Evelyn nodded. And there's the HOA angle, Zelda smiled thinly. Donna's the president of the Napa Valley Estates Association. The bylaws require disclosure of legal disputes involving members. I'll draft a courtesy letter to the board, an anonymous tip with full documentation attached. The conflict of interest will force her resignation or an investigation. I pictured Donna's face at the next meeting, scrambling to explain everything. The image brought me no joy, just satisfaction. Zelda continued. Timeline. The letter goes out tomorrow. Give them 10 days to respond. If there's no payment, we'll file in small claims or superior court. Your choice. Small claims, I said. It's faster and more public. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. You sure? Superior allows for bigger awards. Speed matters. I want this closed. Zelda made a note. Done. We'll include a no-contact clause. Any violation will trigger a restraining order. We mapped out the logistics. I provided vendor receipts, security footage, timestamps, and staff statements. Evelyn handled logistics, printing, mailing, and tracking. Zelda crafted the language, formal, unemotional, and devastating. By noon, the letter was drafted. Zelda read it aloud. Demand for compensation and cessation of contact to Jerry, Donna, and Mason. Last name. Events of December 31st at estate address. You are hereby notified of assault, trespassing, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Total demand, $28,000. Payment within 10 days avoids litigation. Further contact is prohibited. She slid it across the counter. Sign here. My signature looked stronger than it ever had. Evelyn sealed the envelope. Certified. Signature required. They can't claim ignorance. Zelda packed her briefcase. The HOA letter goes separately, to the board members only. Donna finds out when the gavel drops. I walked them to the door. The sun glinted off the vineyard, and the frost was melting. Thank you, I said. Evelyn squeezed my hand. Family isn't blood, it's a choice. Zelda paused. One more thing. If they counter with apologies, don't engage. Forward them to me. I nodded. The door closed, and their engines faded into the distance. I was alone again, and I reviewed the plan in my mind. Every step was locked in place, with no loopholes and no mercy. They had scripted my exclusion, and now I had authored the consequences. The chef had left breakfast, fresh scones and fruit. I ate at the island, the same spot where those emails had damned them. Crumbs fell on the demand letter copy, and I brushed them away. My phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. I let it ring out. It went to voicemail. It was Donna's voice, shaky. Valerie, we need to talk. This has gone too far. I deleted it. Another text came from Mason. You're ruining everything. I blocked the number. Jerry emailed, let's meet as a family. I archived the email. Each attempt reinforced the wall that I had built. Zelda had warned me to document all harassment, and I did. The afternoon brought the courier. The envelopes were dispatched, the demand letter to their home address, and the HOA letter to the board secretary. I saved the tracking numbers. I toured the estate. The cleanup crew had worked miracles. The floors gleamed, and the new crystal had been ordered. The space breathed again. In the evening, I opened my design software and began looking at new project, condo listings, in San Francisco. The hilltop now held memories that were completely toxic. It was time to sell and sever those roots. Zelda phoned me at dusk. Letters were en route. Brace for backlash, she said. I am, I replied. She chuckled. Good. Justice isn't gentle. Night descended. I stood on the balcony. The city lights seemed so distant. For the first time, the future felt like mine to shape, not theirs to sabotage. 3 weeks later, I was facing my parents across Zelda's desk. The office overlooked San Francisco Bay. Neutral ground. Jerry shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Donna clutched a tissue tightly. No Mason, no Peyton were present. Zelda had insisted only the signatories be there. Zelda slid the check forward. $28,000, certified funds. Jerry pushed it over without even meeting my eyes. Donna's hand trembled noticeably as she signed the settlement agreement. This ends it, Zelda stated firmly. Full release upon receipt. Next, the no-contact order. 5 pages, ironclad. Violation means court, Zelda warned, making sure they understood the severity. Jerry initialed each section diligently. Donna hesitated at the last page, then finally scrolled her name. They stood to leave. Jerry paused for a moment. We're sorry, Valerie. I didn't offer any response. The door clicked shut decisively behind them. The consequences unfolded swiftly and dramatically. Donna's HOA presidency collapsed just 2 days later. Board members received the anonymous packet. Sheriff report, emails, demand letter. An emergency vote was held, resulting in removal for conduct unbecoming. Her nameplate vanished from the community center by the end of the week. Jerry's employer launched an internal audit immediately. Party expenses were traced directly to his corporate card. Unauthorized entertainment. Demotion followed swiftly, then a mandatory repayment plan was put into place. Whispers in the office hallway replaced what used to be golf invitations. Mason lost his barista job when his parents cut off his allowance. He was overdue on rent. He moved back into their downsized condo. Peyton ended the engagement quietly and discreetly. There was no vineyard wedding, no trust fund. The future was uncertain. I listed the Napa estate the following Monday. Offers poured in almost immediately. The scandal, surprisingly, added intrigue for buyers seeking properties with character. The closing took just 30 days. The profit cleared 7 figures after all the fees. With the proceeds, I purchased a 2-bedroom condo in Soma, complete with floor-to-ceiling windows, a rooftop deck, and walking distance to the design studios. Movers handled the entire transition seamlessly. I kept only the essentials, my favorite chair, sketchbooks, and the private reserve wine. Unpacking in the new space felt like finally exhaling completely. There were no echoes of arguments, no ghosts lurking in the hallways. I hosted Evelyn first. We had takeout dim sum on the balcony with the city lights spread out below us. Clients returned, even stronger than before. Word of my resilience began to spread in industry circles. A major tech firm commissioned a flagship office. A hotel chain sought expansion concepts. Valerie Designs thrived without the family baggage weighing it down. I blocked all the old numbers and deleted the group chats. Birthdays passed unmarked. Holidays became celebrations with chosen friends. Mentors became family. Evelyn's annual Tahoe trip. One evening, with the sunset painting the skyline orange, I raised a glass alone. Not to victory, but to freedom. True family is where respect is freely given, not something that has to be constantly proven.